This episode is sponsored by Supreme of the UK. Click the link in the description and support the podcast. Quote CFR at the checkout and receive 10% discount on your order.
I remember when I first started this rap, my best friend was telling folk I'm whack behind my back. Now look where I'm at. Same goals, new friends, and a different view of what it means to win or lose. I'm still fighting for a few more steps towards success. People smiling all up in my face with hate on their breath. I don't stress it, blessed be the name of the lame who hate on me. I hope one day you see we're the same from head to feet, and we can really build and let each other know just how we really feel, and come up with some answers to the questions that have been plaguing us since day one. Like, why can't I like them? Because their skin's a different shade from my own. Why do we treat little girls with love until they grow? Then it's money over hoes. I know that I'm not a saint, but I can't participate in that hate, knowing it's the reason some of my people ain't here today. My little brother took one to the gut, and my uncle took one to the dome for 28 bucks. You can't tell me that the price of life is cheaper than a phone bill. If I can't tell you face to face, I hope this song will convince you we should really build and let each other know just how we really feel, and come up with some answers to the questions that have been plaguing us since day one. Like, why do I have to pay to live on the planet I came from? And why is love so natural? Where did hate originate, and who defines what's factual? Why do we assimilate destruction like it's casual? We don't differentiate propaganda from actual understanding, and that's why we can't coexist. All of our issues come from us trying to shape the world into our fit. I know it's this because comparison is where it all begins. In convictions we see difference, but our premises are twin, and that's where we should really build and let each other know just how we really feel, and come up with some answers to the questions that have been plaguing us since day one. Like, how are we all different when we live under the same sun?
Good day, good night, all. Shalom, balance, paradise, wassalam, niha, all of the universal greetings. As you can see, and maybe even feel, I have some feminine energy with me today. Let's do a little different. Mademoiselle, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Merci, monsieur. I go by the Bee Lady. My name is Maryam Henein. I am a real investigative journalist and also a licensed functional medicine coach and consultant, an entrepreneur, and just put out a documentary on the George Floyd incident called The Real Timeline,
which was very, very detailed, and we're going to most definitely go into that. I think, in essence, in my opinion, one of the most detailed documentaries that has been done, utilizing it's akin of sorts. Do you recall 9/11 Con?
No, 9/11 what?
Con, C-O-N.
Con? No, I haven't. I mean, I work in Zeitgeist and very familiar with.
Okay.
No, I haven't seen that movie.
This was literally an hour at plus of news footage of the day. And it just paints, as you know, when you see them individually, like, oh, that is so obvious. Like, yes, the plane, it was a 747 and it was loaded with fuel, and it hit the building, and based upon that, it collapsed. Those type of things, but it's just in a nicely packaged sequence of events, just showing all of these reporters saying these things, and then you think, well, that doesn't line up with the mainstream, or the shame stream, as I call it. So yes, you have done. You and Hibbler, is it?
Yes, Sean
Yes,
Hibbler could not have
didn't.
made this film without him, and realize I was looking for him for a year and a half. It took quite a long time to find a decent, I mean, more than decent editor.
Perfect. The combination and the editing skills and the overall. And ultimately, it's about the information. But when you can edit it together and you can put it in a very non-judgmental, should we say, way, and just let the work speak for itself, that's all we can ask. That's all we can ask. We don't want to necessarily put the veneer of this is the narrative I want to push. Let's just put the information out. Let's comment on it and let it speak for itself.
I mean, I did get feedback that my narration is a little bit smug or can rub someone the wrong way. But that said, also made a concerted effort to have it very matter of fact and indisputable, which is oftentimes the way I write, and with full of links, and to say that who am I to go and purchase out of my own pocket all of the footage from the government, and why am I the only one that has gone to such great lengths to educate people on how they were lied and bamboozled when this is a historic event. You know, the fact that this hasn't made a splash, you know, for instance, Noble, my trailer was taken to Candace Owen before I realized she's controlled op. And next thing I knew, oh, you're making a documentary, and how can I compete with the budget of the Daily Wire and your bazillionaire husband? I can't. I don't have those funds. I was told, don't worry, Maryam, she's not a journalist, and she's not. And she did not talk about Mr. Adam. And while I'm not going to criticize the things that she did bring to light regarding BLM and where that money went, it does not, it dissuades from the event at hand and the real truth. Because today, in today's world, as you must know, there's a lot of faces of the truth movement that are giving you 80%, even 90% truth, but nothing but the truth. And you know, so for instance, with marketing, when you're like, this is 70% organic, oh, that means it's 30% shit. It means it's not organic. It's not organic. And this is what's happening. I call them tries. Truth mixed with lies. It's a very common tactic that most in this mediocre age cannot discern these specifics.
It's unfortunate. The critical thinking has been squeezed and stomped and conditioned out of the human being and mankind. It's there's a bastion of a resistance of people who are maybe born, let's say, late 70s, not even say late 70s, 71 upwards, I would say, to maybe 92. That cusp, that era of people who were able to see the dramatic change in regards to geosocial political upheaval, the changing of countries, the Soviet Union being taken, destroyed and broken up, now Russia, the booming technology in social media, mobile phones, cell technology and stuff. And we've had the ability and the opportunity to have been in a place where you would go to school, you'd run back home, you'd have your dinner, or your tea, as some people say in England, and then you would go outside in the fresh air and you would play with your friends of all different nationalities, cultures, and potentially places, depending on where you are in this plane of existence. And you would associate, you'd go to their friends at your friend's house, and that might be an Italian person, and you get to try Italian food and see the Italian culture, and vice versa. So we would mix and we would see the differences, of course, but we would see the commonality of us being the people who we are, trying to exist in this interesting world where we have evil, wicked beings who are trying their utmost to guide you away from that inner voice that's telling you, no, don't do that, because that's wrong. Do something that's good. Help that person. Don't step on them even further. Show them a better way. Don't listen to that. Maryam, don't listen to that. Noble, don't listen to that. Listen to us, and by listening to us, do out thou will be the whole law. You can make up anything as long as you're happy. That's the most important thing.
I can relate to that. I was born in 73, and I grew up in Montreal, Canada, and it was only after moving to the United States that someone said, "What race are you?" I remember I was doing a play in Pittsburgh, and some black guy on the street goes, are you black or white? And I said, I'm brown. And he's like, for reals? But it was never even, and being in Los Angeles when I came, I remember applying for internships after graduating from journalism school and being asked if I was a minority and being told that I'm not a minority as an Egyptian Greek, even though there was way more Hispanics than Egyptians. But yeah, I grew up being exposed to all different cultures, Greek. I mean, in Montreal, there was everything. And I didn't see the world through shades of color. And it was a rude awakening coming to America. And of course, now, post-pandemic, everything has changed. I would argue that many of us who do see, and maybe even if you haven't, you're still kind of, you've been traumatized and still kind of digesting this post-pandemic world that is before us. I mean, I'm now in Costa Rica, and I came here knowing this was coming because I've been covering medical freedom since 2012, and I am a visionary with psychic skills, and it's changed a lot in the 3 years since even the 4 or 5G poles that are all along from San Jose to Dominical, where I'm not far from there. So yeah, the world that we grew up in is arguably gone.
Unfortunately, it's almost, I guess, casting my mind back to the 2012. Do you remember the big talk about 2012 and the Kundalini awakening and
Yes.
the seventh strand of DNA coming to force and all this stuff? And I was just thinking, we just need a reset. We literally need not to go back into the Stone Age, but go back to very limited internet, very little government control, people having plots of land. No, there's no tower blocks. Let's get rid of all of that stuff, and let's have people homesteading. Let's have people actually working and bartering and trading and building up a community, because there's no communities anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, here where I am, there's community, but I don't know if they're my community. I look like a hippie, but I'm not a hippie. And I've had women, I'm not a typical chick either. I've had women that I'm trying to engage in and speak, and they've taken like a visible step back because it's too intense for them. I can't handle 5 seconds, honey. Try 50 years. So just there is community, but where, and are they on the same page when we're navigating sheeple and brainwashing? So it's difficult.
Yeah, it truly is. It truly is. And as you so rightly highlight, the sheeple, the lemmings, who will willfully walk off the end of the cliff and be no more. They will form potentially part of the community, but in essence, what I'm really talking about is a real cohesive community where There's more than just looking at the flicker rate of the television screen or your little crack phone that everyone has, and actually realizing and understanding, the neighbor next door at number 25, Joe, he's a nice person. Stephanie, my other neighbor, they're nice people, and together we're gonna make things better in this community. On a Saturday, we're gonna walk around and pick the trash up, and we're gonna go see the old ladies and the old age pensioners and stuff, and we're gonna do community events to get to know each other again, to have a semblance of, I am happy here. I don't just work 70 hours, come home and shut the door. Oh, I'm safe now, honey, we're safe.
Well, let's say here on Fridays and Tuesdays, but Fridays there's a farmer's market, and people are gathering, and there's organic food, and they are bartering. I would say the hippies here are quite capitalist, and but that does exist. However, there's an unplugging from the matrix. And I remember when I was here in 2020, and then I returned, I went back to America. It was difficult to re-enter. There's a book called The Shamanic Way of the Bee, which is written by Simon Buxton, and I interviewed him for Vanishing of the Bees, and I read the book. And in the book, he talks about working with his teacher, and he steps into a hexagonal shape and goes in there for 21 days. 21 days is how long it takes to mature actually 24 days to mature a drone, 21 days for the worker bee, only 16 days for a queen. But he walks into the hexagonal shape, a man entering the world of the bee, and emerges a honeybee having to reintegrate into the world of man. And I very much felt like that, going back into the matrix. And then it was again an adjustment. I'm still adjusting because I've been here less than a month, to basically detox from the matrix. And living in the jungle sounds exotic, and it is, but it's not easy when the elements are in charge.
Exactly.
And so there's outages every day. It's like, oh, it's Easter, I have no running water. But there's a reason why I came here, where there's more nature than man, and nature, which is not gentle and is savage, is the one that dictates how things go. And so, finding that balance, because I would love to be here, but have like-minded people,
Indeed.
I guess, that are keeping tabs on what is happening, because this transhumanist agenda, I mean, you can go back in time, even 20 years, this long directional game, this new world order has been in motion for a long, long time. So this message has been going on. The only thing that I see is different is there's a acceleration, there's a collapsing of time, where it's like, oh, it's already Thursday. I'm juggling so many different things that require different parts of my brain, and it's just all too much while still trying to have a life.
Yes. So
I just believe this is a spiritual battle, and that no one should take anything for granted. I went live, I channel, and so I don't necessarily know what's going to come through when I'm doing kind of these monologues. I'm not saying right now.
Yes.
But what I found myself saying is, go look at yourself in the mirror and reckon with yourself. Reckon with the fact that you made a mistake, as opposed to just pretending this didn't happen. I'm talking about this pandemic, this kill shot. It's difficult to wrap your mind if you don't get that saline was doled out and different levels of different poisons were doled out, that this was an experiment, that the experiment is not over, and now it's a post-mortem, right? This is now like the US Senate put a 300, who's going to read that? I will. a 300-page Muddy Waters report, because what are they doing? They are taking back the narrative, taking back some of the things that we said 3 years ago about the origin story. But what is different is that they're peppering in lies. So they want you to come together and shit on China, when we know that behind the scenes globalists, it's not only China, it's North Chapel Hill, it's other BSL-4 labs, but yet it is Muddy Waters. Muddy Waters ain't just a blues singer anymore, folks.
It's to constantly keep your mind off the target, off the focus. Let's pump them for the fear porn. Let's have a death count. Let's change the narrative. Let's change the definition of certain words, medical words.
Right.
Let's suspend reality.
So let's say George Carlin did Richie from Boston put out a little George Carlin video where he's talking about how certain words have been changed. And he was using the example shell shock and how it changed many times to operational exhaustion, to post-traumatic, whatever. But it's the weaponization of language, and it is the ministry of truth. And so when I take part in a live action role play, which was January 6th, and I see with my own eyes that I took part in this live action role play, and I see how they're changing the truth, and now it's the deadly insurrection. And you witness that, and I witnessed George Floyd, and I've come to terms with probably what I'm doing, because this film goes with a book that I'm still writing, that it will be, I'm a scribe, that some of us are scribes, who knows, for 100 years from now, just like we're still trying to figure out what happened with JFK 69 years later. Well, there are people who'll be like, what happened to George Floyd? And they will find my book, probably long after I'm gone. And I just have to trust that God, and I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, that God has chosen me to bring forth this idea. The author Elizabeth Gilbert, who's best known for Eat, Pray, Love, she did another book talking about how these ideas are in the ether, and if you don't pluck them, they don't belong to you. They will go on to the next person that takes them. So it's unfortunate that I'm still working on this book, that I'm still trying to raise funds to cover my costs, because the world has moved on. But you know what, Noble? Just 2 days ago, the state responded to Derek Chauvin's appeal. So one of the goals was to keep George Floyd in the title, in the headlines, as long as possible. And the truth is, his name is uttered every single day in some news channel. But people have fatigue, and they bank on that fatigue, so that when someone like me comes up with the truth and shows you, because real investigations take time, not this McJustice bullshit, that people will not tune in. So they bank on that. I'm like, oh, it's over. So if you give it a chance, if you're just like, for one moment, just suspend all the crap that you heard about George Floyd and turn this on, you will not be able to stop it, because it engages you, and it's a chronological timeline.
Yes.
I find that I've watched it hundreds of times, and I've had people say, yeah, I just saw it for my third time, because it's so dense with stuff that you could, go down that rabbit hole. I mean, you tell me.
It's packed. It's absolutely packed, and it's not necessarily, as other people did, they superimposed stuff onto the whole situation, which was fake news. That it wasn't really looking at the information. They just literally studied the 3 or 4 videos that were out and said, made their analysis on that, and started bringing up all kind of spurious things about his past life, etc., in essence justifying, he was a bad person. he was a bad person, he was doing this, and that, you know, we shouldn't necessarily, you know, take much pity in this person being, you know, in essence, a modern day lynching taking place.
Right. Right. And also the way in which these operations work. And perhaps if you're open to it, we can play the trailer for the people. But I want to say that the way in which they're designed, that they incorporate red herrings. And so I've come to the point now, after studying Tavistock, that they outline even both sides. It's like an intricate series. I mean, people out there have seen enough amazing Hollywood series to see how intricate they are. But there's a quote, everything is fake. We're mushrooms living in the dark being fed shit. And so I just think I'm almost finished the book. It takes a lot of space and time to get into a flow and to be as specific and detailed as I am. I mean, I really believe the book will be a masterpiece, and that I'm thinking that I'm going to charge a big amount, and if only people who really want will get this book, because I produce so much content, and yet I am not an influencer that's making 40, 50K selling collagen.
Well, look, we have to look at it. We have to look at it. As you said, it may be 100 years, it may be, no, let's not go that far. It may be 20, 30, 40 years. And you may not be on this physical plane of existence until a mass of people say, wow, look at this information. Why did people take this stuff serious? It's the people putting in the hard work. Unfortunately, we don't get the credit. We don't get the credit until potentially we're no longer here, or 5-10 years later. Oh wow, I've only just stumbled across this person. They're providing a wealth of information. So it's and then on the other hand, you've got people, as you say, who are influencers, and yes, indeed, they may provide some level of information, but it's apples and oranges.
I want to also say, I remember, you probably wouldn't know this, that I worked on Plandemic, arguably even named the series, because you could see that I was using the word Plandemic in March 2020. And when I asked for credit from Mickey, who I've known for a really long time, he said, it's not about us, but it's all about you, Mickey. You're getting front and center. I can't get a byline. As a journalist, I am not motivated by money. I am motivated by just simply getting credit for my work. If that wants to be spun, that Maryam, the bee lady, wants fame, and you have no sense of discernment to be like, no, this person's actually quite authentic, and that's not what drives her. As a journalist, it's okay that I want to have credit. That's the whole point, breaking stories. I've broken many stories to now see what Sam Tripoli calls safe, dangerous. Oh, now you're the face of medical freedom? Really? Where the fuck were you 20 years ago?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are you? Now this is your message and you're the face and you're getting all the credit? Well, how about people who've been targeted by the FDA, FTC, DOJ? Unsung heroes that have had the courage to use their voice because God gave me my throat chakra. I'm able to string a sentence together without ums like circle back Jen Psaki. And that the channels, people who do channel information, in any case, God knows my heart, and it's one thing to be censored. It's another thing when they incapacitate your way to make a living. Anyway.
That just shows you, look, Maryam, that shows you are on the path. When we have these constant obstacles, especially when